Hey y'all, hey, it's me, Giovanni, tuning in for our regular Wednesday chat with the aunties. Sorry about that. Okay. So I am not being joined by Purple Hair and Converse today, but we are definitely looking forward to her return as she takes care of some personal business. So I will be joining you for our regular weekly conversation chat with the aunties, where we sit down, have our tea, and get down to the truth of what's going on today. So I wanted to, hopefully, you guys can see this. I'm getting an error message on my end, but I think we'll be okay. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I think we're good. All right. So, first of all, hey, y'all, hey. So excited to be here with you again for another episode of Chat with the Aunties. As you know, if you've been with us over the last few weeks, we've been having a really good conversation about honesty and what that looks like. And we were continuing that conversation from our talk about vulnerability and what that looks like and what that feels like in our daily lives. So, when we left off last week, Purple Hair and Converse left us with a great prompt asking us to think about where we were or were not being honest with ourselves. And, just being attentive to that as we go through our week. So sorry that these pages are turning in front of you guys, but I just wanted to get down to my notes because we had some really good questions that she gave us. So thinking about how do we show up for ourselves. So if you'll remember when we talked about self-care, self-love, and self-esteem, we had some really good questions. And one of those questions was about showing ourselves self-love and actually showing up for ourselves. So as we get into vulnerability and now honesty, we can really start looking at what that looks like, right? How do we actually show up for ourselves? What are we doing for ourselves? And in this case, how are we showing up with our honesty? Um, or are we able to be honest with ourselves? Over our daily and everyday lives. So I'm curious, as far as you all, what that experience was like. So if you're joining us from Instagram, you can definitely go into the chat on YouTube and put your comments in. Or if you are on YouTube, you can just type your comments in directly onto the comments page and I will see them. But I'm definitely curious about how that showed up for you this week and what that looked like for you. So, before we get into all that, I do want to go ahead and address um, what our main topic is, which is the tea. So I want to start out and just talk about my tea for today because I got some really interesting messages on that as well. So I'm going to go to my tea so you guys can see this. So my tea for the day is the lavender and honey yogi tea. Lavender and honey yogi tea. And if you are a yogi tea drinker, then you know that yogi tea always comes with this little quote, little guide. And so I really got a double today. So I used 2 tea bags to make this lavender honey yogi tea. And then I always use local honey. But I want to see if you guys can see this because I think it is perfect as we start talking about honesty with ourselves this week. So hopefully this will show up clearly on camera. But the first tag, this is the first tag. Oh, it's running away. Okay, this is the first tag. And in case you can see it, it says people who love are compassionate. Okay, cool. But wait, there's more. So the second tag on the second bag of tea, totally different area of the box, pull this out. And it says compassion is a constant state of giving of the self for others, right? So I just thought that was really interesting that I had these two tea tags that both spoke about compassion. And so I think that's kind of a reminder for us going into our content for today as we talk about being honest with ourselves and what that looks like. So I just thought that was a really good start. And, clearly that's our tea for the day. And so I just thought that was really interesting that our tea started with compassion because, going through the week, recognizing how we were honest or how we were dishonest with ourselves, that was major work. So if you did that, first of all, I want to just give you a round of applause for that. But also, just bring in and reiterate the necessity for compassion, to just literally be compassionate with ourselves, to be compassionate with our, our progress, to be compassionate with our growth, like all of that. So I just really want to kind of reiterate that as a part of what is going on when we talk about, being compassionate. That it's not just being compassionate; it's also, it's not just being honest, but it's also being compassionate. It's also being able to address what's really going on in a loving, gentle, and kind way, right? That we're not beating ourselves up. We're not saying, oh, you should have done better, or, you didn't do that well enough. Or it's just recognizing, like, okay, I'm not being as honest with myself as I want to be, or that was something that I was dishonest about. I want to show up better, but doing it in a loving way. So being able to be kind, being able to be compassionate, and still being honest with ourselves. So again, it gets us back to what we've been saying all week, what we've been reiterating. We don't want brutal honesty, right? We value loving honesty. We value kind honesty. We value caring honesty. We value gentle honesty, but we don't want brutal honesty. And so this little reminder to be compassionate with ourselves is great because it lets us know, like, hey, remember that honesty is gentle, it's loving, it is care filled, right? It's not brutal honesty. So I just thought that was a really great coincidence for this episode as we go into being honest with ourselves and looking at where we are honest with ourselves. So I'm curious to hear what you all's experience was around that. You can jump in the group chat. You can jump in the comments on YouTube and let us know, like, what has that been like for you? What has it been like for a week of being honest with yourself? What has that experience been like for you? So yeah, feel free to share that in the comments and let us know how that's going. Let us know how being honest with yourself is going, and how just recognizing, right, getting conscientious, getting awareness around the honesty or lack of honesty that we give to ourselves. Because I think honesty is a great gift, right? Honesty is a great gift. It is a wonderful teacher if we're honest with ourselves. We definitely tend to learn a lot and to get a lot of lessons out of that experience. So I definitely want to encourage that. All right. So this week, I really wanted to talk about honesty and our choices and how that shows up in our lives. So, if you followed the last couple of Lux Libra posts on Instagram, you may have seen that a couple of the things that I brought up were these ideas of honesty. So, I'm going to read two of those that really get us going into the direction that we want to go into around honesty. So the first one is the most recent post on the Lux Libra page, and it says, "Lies are about avoidance. What choice are we refusing to make?" And then the explanation says, of course, we're still studying honesty, still exploring honesty, noticing when we are honest with ourselves and when we're dishonest. Lies are about avoidance. What choice are we refusing to make? When we're dishonest, we are often refusing to make a decision, to cut off other options and deal with what is before us. Or we simply allow people, situations, spaces, or our complete lack of boundaries to be a space in which we're violated, unhappy, unheard, and deeply unsatisfied. This week, we'll begin exploring the choices that we make on Chat with the AunTeas. And then the post before that was, again, getting to those choices, right? What does that look like on the other side? So it was the second Lux Libra post that said, we cannot change our past, but we can lay a new foundation for a better future. And so it goes, which it was my honest reflection. For me, it has been a whirlwind year of major accomplishments and major losses. I understand that I can't go back and fix my quote unquote mistakes or bad choices, nor can I recoup what I see as losses. I can, however, move forward. I can set my boundaries. I can put myself at the top of my list. I can envision where I'm going and seek advice from those who are where I want to be. I can document the lessons of my past. I can build my tribe of trusted advisors. I can reach out and ask for what I need. I can adopt new habits and build a stronger, more solid foundation. And so the journal prompt on that exercise was, after looking at the wellness wheel in the chat with the AunTeas highlights, and that's on my page as well as on Purple Hair and Converse's page. Write about one thing you can do in each category of the wellness wheel to lay a new foundation for a better future. And of course, we'll continue our chat on honesty with a discussion about choices and talk about radical, loving, gentle honesty, as well as your responses. So, a couple of people actually commented on a few things that they had been avoiding or refusing to make choices about. So, our good friend G.A. Conyers over there at Insana, Texas, she was refusing to make a choice of which yarn to use on a project that she really doesn't have time for. And if she doesn't choose, she has to finish a dozen or so projects on her plate. And I think that's a great starting point, right? A lot of times we bury ourselves deeply in projects. We bury ourselves deeply in all of these other outside things just so we can avoid having to deal with what's in front of us or what the reality is that we need to deal with, right? We can use that as this avoidance tactic. So when we think about being honest with ourselves, we can even be honest about what we're avoiding, right? We can be honest about what we don't want to face. And that's, major in and of itself. Okay, to begin addressing the reality, right? That we may not want to face something, that there's something that we've allowed to go on that we may not want to set the boundary up for stopping, that there's something that's continually affecting us because we haven't put a stop to it by setting a boundary, or we haven't made a choice around it to end it or to start it. So when we think about making our choices, all of those are the pieces that come up with that. So I wanted to get a little bit deeper into this idea about honesty in our choices for a couple of reasons. One reason is getting the honesty really helps us get to clarity, right? When we're honest about things, we tend to have a great deal more clarity about them. And once we get clear on things, it usually helps us to make those choices. It helps us to get out of avoidance. It helps us to end the lies. It helps us to take action. So honesty is really the building block for us moving forward. It's really the building block of healing. It's really the building block of us getting accurate, of us getting clear, of us, moving into clarity, of us getting where we want to be in our healing. So honesty is really that building block. And it's so important to recognize what we haven't been honest about. It's so important to address what we haven't been honest about and to begin to tell the truth, right? To come out of the lies, to come out of the failure to admit, the lies of omission, the lies of acknowledgement, the flat out lies, that are against the truth. The lies that make us feel safe, or the lies that keep us in fear, right? Because we can lie to ourselves on either side in that way. So when we think about making choices, we really have to take action. We really have to get clear on what we're doing so that we can then get out of our way and do what we really need to do. What we really need to do to move forward, what we really need to do to heal, or what we really need to do to bring something to a conclusion or to have closure around something. So as we think about our choices, we can really start to think about the directions that we can go with those choices. And even making the decision to make the choice is a choice, right? We finally say, I'm going to stop hemming and hawing. I'm going to stop being uncertain. I'm going to stop being insecure around this thing. And I'm going to make a choice, right? I'm going to go ahead and say or do or make the decision to create a new reality. So making that choice is really a cornerstone of our healing process. Deciding to no longer accept, tolerate, process, operate in dishonesty is a major part of us moving forward and getting to healing. So as we talk about, these chats and we talk to, our auntie girlfriends, or we talk to one another, or, we talk to you all, we want to keep going back to that, right? Honesty is like this bridge, right? It's a bridge that lets us get to choices. It's the bridge that lets us get to wholeness. It's a bridge that lets us get to healing. And we have to take the first step of getting on that bridge, because what we find out is that on the other side of that bridge, that same bridge, that same honesty that served to get us from point A to point B is going to be the same level of honesty that's required for us to build, from the bottom up. So whether we're rebuilding ourselves in a more healed way, whether we're building our foundation with making new choices, new boundaries, all of those things are grounded in honesty, and honesty is the foundation for all of those things. So when we think about lies being about avoidance and honesty being about facing things or being about clarity, then we can begin to ask, what choice are we refusing to make? So we know when we're not honest that we're really making a choice to stay in our illness, to stay in fear, to stay in our sickness, to stay essentially in dishonesty. So by making the choice to be honest, we make a choice to wellness, we make a choice to move forward, and we make a choice to get out of fear. So I'm really excited about that. When we think about honesty, we tend to think about it, in a situation, right? Did I tell a lie or did I not tell a lie? But we never think about the larger, the broader, the bigger impacts of that. So I'm really excited to start thinking about what that looks like. So what was my look at honesty like? Well, I've been threatening to do this for quite some time and I've never done it. So since Purple Hair and Converse isn't with us today, then I figured I would just kind of use some of the time we have to talk about not just honesty, but also my journal game. So Purple Hair and Converse and I are major journal fans. We love journaling. We both have journals going back years for all different types of things. I found my oldest journal, and my oldest journal was 27 years old. My oldest journal was 27 years old. So I've had it for quite some time. So I brought with me today, which I actually did not know Purple Hair and Converse wouldn't be joining us today. She had a last minute thing come up. So fortunately, I kind of already had this stack on my desk, but I have this stack of journals that are the journals that I use on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis, but they're journals that are all currently active in my life. So you guys are probably familiar with my Chat with the Aunties journal, which is this beautiful notebook. So I'm going to show that to you all. And it says great big ideas, which I feel like this show definitely fits that, right? It's definitely part of the great big ideas that we have of creating media for women like us, for women who are over 40, who are technologically savvy and who want to do their work and want to do their work alongside other women. So that's our great big idea with Chat with the Aunties. So I'm glad that we are seeing that come into fruition. So honesty for me is very much a part of a big part of me getting honest and maintaining my honesty and clarity is writing. We had Melanie G on with us a few weeks ago, and she told wonderful stories about her writing and how her writing was this place that she could be vulnerable and this place that she could show up fully and fully express herself. And so for me, journaling has been that. Journaling has been the place that I have been able to fully let out, be my biggest, most creative self. It's a place where I flesh out ideas. It's a place where I deal with life. It's a place that I make plans. So journaling has really been my space of honesty. So I have a couple of journals, and what I want to share with you all today is one that really helped me with my honesty this week. And that was my gratitude journal. My gratitude journal keeps me incredibly honest. I have to, write what I'm grateful for. So even when I've convinced myself that it's the worst day ever, it's not really the worst day ever, because I always have a list of things that I'm thankful for. So this is my DIY gratitude journal. And it's got a quote on the front. If you all are familiar with some of the online gurus, you may recognize that quote, that font. That is actually from a truth bomb from Danielle Laporte. So it says gratitude is a form of intimacy. Gratitude is a form of intimacy. And I had never thought about that. But when we think about what we're grateful for, we have to be really honest, right? Because again, no matter how badly we've convinced ourselves that things are, or know how much we've convinced ourselves that things are bad, when we really sit and get honest and think about what we have to be grateful for, we realize that, things really aren't as bad as we like to think. So gratitude is a form of intimacy. And this is my gratitude journal. And so I started it where I would do these thank you in advance gratitude posts. So I would do these thank you in advance posts. And I really started using it after a particularly traumatic experience that I had. And I just really needed to hold on to something positive, right? Hold on to some faith. So I started this gratitude journal. And so I would write every day, I'm thankful in advance for da 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 da. And I would write out, the things that I was thankful in advance for. And so that has kind of morphed into this quarter document that I actually do that really keeps me honest. So it's got 4 quarters. So you can see there's kind of the navy blue up here, the light blue, the pink, and then the orange. And so this document in this journal really works for me when talking about honesty, because the first quarter, the navy blue, is gratitude. So I write 5 things that I'm grateful for every morning. And they're usually things from the previous day. Sometimes it could just be, whatever pops in my head that morning that I'm grateful for. But I start the day off in gratitude, and that keeps me incredibly honest and grounded as I go through the day, and remember that, there's always things to be grateful for. And then I write my goals. So I usually try to write 5 things that I want to get done for the day. And they're a mix of goals. Sometimes they're, small tasks that I'm going to do to work on my long-term goals. Sometimes there are things that are just immediate that I must do for the day. And sometimes they are ways to take care of myself, because good self-care is one of my goals, right? Living well through balance. The next thing I do is 5 affirmations. And those 5 affirmations, again, they keep me honest. I have to be honest with myself about what I'm affirming about myself, or what I'm affirming about my life, what I'm affirming about my relationships, whatever it is that I want to affirm. Then I try to make sure that I keep that in the affirmation section. So I put in the affirmations and talk about, what I want to affirm, what I want to keep at the front of my mind, what I want to remind myself of as I go throughout the day. And then the last part, again, keeping me incredibly honest, is accomplishments. So the 4th quarter in orange is a list of what I've accomplished for the day. So I try to at least do 5, end up with more pretty often. But I write down 5 things that I've accomplished. And, I congratulate myself for accomplishing those things. And so this daily practice has kept me incredibly honest. It's helped me recognize when I am being honest with myself and when I'm not being honest with myself, because I can look at my goals for the day and I can look at my accomplishments at the end of the day and I can say, oh, did I really accomplish what I set out to do? You know, did I live in the gratitude that I recognized at the beginning of the day? Did I really, intentionally focus on my goals and make it through the things that I wanted to make through and make the things happen that I wanted to make happen on a daily basis? So I really love the gratitude journal, and it's a great way that has helped me maintain my honesty. And I've got a little prayer card in there, so I made this prayer card that helps me in the morning as well. So I do like a morning devotional with prayers, and have it all in this one place. So that works really well for me as far as helping me stay honest with what I'm doing or helping me to maintain my honesty. So that's one of my tools. That's one of the tools that I use this week, especially, but also on a weekly basis, just to help me with staying honest and being gently honest with myself, being lovingly honest with myself, and giving myself the care and the compassion that I would like, and that I would extend to anyone else. So, being able to do that was incredibly positive and enjoyable, right? It was a pleasant and easy experience. It's never a stressful experience. It's just a way to quietly reflect on the things that are good about life, the things that are good in my life, and the things that I want more of, right? The things that I'm affirming to bring more of into my life. So that's been a really positive way for me to work on this exercise of being honest with myself. And of course, I've had some longer form reflections. And so I use a regular journal. This is the current journal that I'm using, my Lloyd Term notebook. I love it. It's gold. If you know me, you know I love gold. So that's kind of my regular journal right now that I've been using. But I probably switch out journals maybe 2 or 3 times a year as far as my main writing journal. I can easily make it through a journal in 6 months. Um, so yeah, so again, definitely go on that status on Instagram. Let me know how being honest with yourself has been working for you. And I just like to think a little bit now about choices and how we make our choices and what that looks like. So, when I think about the choices that we make, again, those accomplishments, right? If I'm not accomplishing what I want to accomplish on a daily basis, then where do I need to make new choices? If I'm not feeling the way that I want to feel on a daily basis, where do I need to make some new choices? If my relationships are not functioning the way that I want to function in my relationships, then where might I need to make new choices, either about my relationship or within my relationship, or are there some new boundaries I need to set, or are there some things that are no longer working in that relationship? So getting honest about those things really helps us to get into these making of the choices that will actually serve us, and making the choices that will help to get us where we want to be. Because again, the end result of that honesty, the whole goal of all of this, the reason we chat is not just to dispense our opinions and advice, but also to, hear from you all about what works and what doesn't work. So when we, get more honest with ourselves, it allows us to be more honest with you all. When we can be honest and vulnerable with ourselves, it allows us to be honest and vulnerable with you all. When we can tell the truth to ourselves, it allows us to make more space at the table for more truth tellers. And we always want truth tellers at our table, as long as they're able to do that gently and honestly. So I'm just really excited about that. And I'm going to keep working on that. I'm going to keep working on the 4 quarters of gratitude, goals, affirmations, and accomplishments, because that definitely helped me to stay really honest this week. So, thinking about my biggest revelation, or if I had a big revelation, I can't think of a particular revelation, but I definitely got clear. I got a lot of clarity on what that looks like. I got a lot of clarity on what it meant to be honest with myself. And not in the sense of, I was lying to myself about a particular thing, but I definitely was avoiding taking any action around a situation that had kind of just left me perplexed, with a lot of questions. And during my process of being really honest with myself over the week, I got a lot of clarity on what to do about that situation. It was like, okay, the most honest thing possible is to take this particular route of action. The most sensible thing possible, the most compassionate thing possible is to take this route of action or to take this approach. And so for me, that was the clarity that came up from my exercise of honesty. I was able to get clear on action to take around a situation, and more so, not action, but the approach. I kind of had been really unsure about how to approach a particular situation in my life. And the situation had been there for a long time, and I was just really hazy on how to even approach it from the beginning, because it just seemed like from all sides that there was this lack of clarity. But being honest with myself in these gentle, small ways helped me get this clear download, like, oh, you just need to do this. And so it definitely helped me with clarity and guidance this week. So I would love to hear how practicing noticing your honesty and noticing when you're dishonest with yourself helped you this week. So definitely go on the post and comment, or you can comment in the comments here in the group chat. Just let me know how that worked for you all. And I guess the last piece is, getting back to those choices. Thinking about what we show ourselves, how we show ourselves and how we show up. So writing the gratitude every day, and then writing my goals versus my actual accomplishments at the end of the day proved to be really, sorry, I'm trying to make room for my tea and my notebook. Okay. Really showed me that if we calm down, if we allow the honesty to rise up, and if we are open, if we're willing to look at it, we can get a lot of clarity. So that was important, because that clarity then helps us to make new choices. So what I was shown was a very clear way to handle this situation that I had been trying to figure out for the longest. And that then allowed me to make new choices around that situation. It allowed me to take action that I was clear on, action that I knew was compassionate, action that was well grounded and well thought out. And that was a result of me being honest with myself. So that was a really powerful exercise for me this week. And I am incredibly appreciative to Purple Hair and Converse for bringing us that activity. So now I'm thinking about, how does that guide our choices, right? When we think about getting honest with ourselves, when we think about getting that level of clarity, and then guiding our choices, right? What direction do we want to go in? How do we want to handle things in the future? And when I think about that guiding our choices, it really gets us out of victimhood. It really gets us out of shame. It really gets us out of blame, and allows us to take ownership for our choices. And that's what we want, right? We want to feel empowered. We want to take ownership for our choices. And we want to, as the Serenity Prayer says, we want to change the things that we can change, right? That we desire to see a change in. And so allowing that honesty, allowing the new truths that emerge from the honesty to then guide our decision making, allows us to make these new choices that look a lot healthier, that feel a lot more authentic, and that may actually be much more grounding for us. So as we go into the next week, our practice is definitely making new choices from the knowledge that we gained from our honesty, and from recognizing our honesty and our dishonesty. What do those new choices look like? How, what's guiding it? And really using honesty as a tool to get us into greater levels of accountability, but also greater levels of compassion for ourselves, as our T tag said, helping us to be patient with ourselves. That's a part of that compassion. And then also helping us to be accountable. That's a part of our compassion as well, right? Accountability allows us to own our choices. And once we own our choices, we don't have all the negative emotions around it. We have the compassion that we need for ourselves. And so, again, I have to go back to, the patron saint of Chat with the Aunties, Dr. Maya Angelou, and, her overcoming things. And if you've ever read any of her autobiographies, I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings, or Singing and Swinging and Getting Merry Like Christmas, or Wouldn't Take Nothing for My Journey Now, you see that she writes with such compassion about young Marguerite. She writes with such compassion about her experiences as a mother, when her son is, in this horrific car accident. She shares how she felt and what she thought, but as a writer, she's so compassionate to her past self. And so when I think about honesty in our choices, it not only gives us this higher level of accountability because we're owning our choices, but it also shows that it gives us an opportunity to be compassionate with ourselves, and then thereby developing more patience with ourselves. And those are definitely necessary parts of healing if we're going to talk about how we heal and living better and living well. And as Purple Hair in Converse always says, hope is dope. So, the way that we get to this place of hopefulness is by this consistent compassion for ourselves and the positive expectation. And having that compassion, having that patience, having that accountability gives us a positive expectation, because that accountability is like this self-fulfilling prophecy of moving forward. So I think that's all that I have today. I have definitely enjoyed this time talking about honesty and our choices. Definitely enjoy sharing my journals with you. I want to hear what you all think and what you all experienced this week with being more honest with yourselves and recognizing where you were being honest or dishonest. And I definitely want to hear more about how that shows up in the choices that you make for yourselves over the next week. So there's already a journal prompt in there about looking at the wellness wheel and then determining, what new choices you want to make in various areas of your life to implement those choices, to implement that level of compassion for yourself, to implement that level of patience with yourself. So I'm curious as to what you all come up with on the wellness wheel. Definitely, if you write these in your journal, definitely take some pictures and tag us. Hashtag Chat with the Aunties. Tag me at the Lux Libra. Tag Malika at Purple Hair and Converse, because we want to see this, right? We want to see how this process happens, because we're all at the table together. We're having this chat together, and we want to see how it works for everyone. So definitely tag us in your pictures and your wellness wheels. There is a sample wellness wheel in my highlights at the Lux Libra on Instagram, and also in Purple Hair and Converse's highlights on Instagram. So you can see the wellness wheel, you can see the 7 categories, and then you can work through the journal prompt of putting new choices into each of those categories and seeing what that looks like for you over the next week as well. So I am incredibly curious about what you all are going to do. I will be sharing my wellness wheel over the week as I put in some new choices, and I look forward to our next chat next week. We're here on YouTube at Make You Media every Wednesday, 4 Central, 5 Eastern. Our co-host Malika Salam at Purple Hair and Converse, and co-host me, Giovanni, at the Lux Libra. We're both on Instagram, we're both on Twitter, we're both on Facebook, and of course here on YouTube at Make You Media. So if you watch this, if you like this broadcast, definitely check out our previous broadcasts. Definitely subscribe, comment, rate the video, give us your feedback, and definitely come on over to Instagram and engage with us and let us know how the practice of noticing your honesty and dishonesty worked for you this week, as well as how you're going to add some new choices into your wellness wheel, and how that shows up for you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye, y'all. Bye. And I will see you all next week, chatting with the Aunties.